ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the $1 Million Club's Think and Grow Rich Masterclass series. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Burgess with Maximizing Results, and it's an absolute honor to be able to share this information with you. You see, in February of 1996, I answered an ad in the newspaper looking for a job. I accepted the interview. I go to this place for the interview, and I'm taken into a room, and it's somewhat of a larger room, and there's more than just me in the room. I'm thinking, what's going on here? Oh, and then it dawned on me, I was in a network marketing meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying anything bad about network marketing, not by any stretch of the imagination. However, that's not what I was looking for on that occasion. Not at all. I truly just wanted a job. But since I was sitting in the front of the room, I decided, you know what, I'll at least stay and hear what they have to say, and then I'll, at the break or something, I'll find a way to excuse myself. But something they said that night really registered and intrigued me. And one of the things that the gentleman said was that I should get a copy of a book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, I'd never heard of a book like this. Didn't really care about books. I quit school in the 8th grade. I didn't even graduate the 8th grade, so I'm certainly not going to go out and buy books. It's not what I do. But once again, something they said intrigued me, and I decided to look a little deeper into this company. And a couple of weeks later, I found myself at a training in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I had an opportunity to meet the founder of the company. Now, this company was the #1 fastest growing privately held company in the United States in 1996. And ladies and gentlemen, it was done all with the principles out of this book. And the founder told me I should get a copy of this book, and he said this: study it every day for the rest of your life. Now, at that point, I truly had thought he had lost his mind. What I didn't understand was he actually found his mind. I had never found mine. You see, the book is called Think and Grow Rich. And the one thing I had never learned to do was think, and that's what he pointed out. And then he asked me a question. He said, well, how do we think, Tim? How do we think? Ask the next 100 people you run into, how do we think? And you're bound to get some pretty weird looks, and maybe even a few people that think you have gone off the deep end. Maybe you drank too much. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, if we can agree that thinking is the most important function that we perform, thinking literally causes everything in our lives to come into reality. I'm sure you would agree with me, it's probably a pretty good idea to understand how we think, especially if we want to learn to think and grow rich. And ladies and gentlemen, we literally think in pictures. I mean, if I ask you to think of a train, or a plane, or a tree, see, every time I ask you to think of something, you get an image that pops on the screen of your mind. And the more clarity you have with the image, the less confusion there is. For example, if I ask you to think of your home, you have a clear image of where you live. There's no confusion about that. Now, if I were to ask you 5 questions about your home, and for every right answer that you give me, I will give you $1,000. You have a very clear image. You easily take $5,000 without any problems. But then I'm going to ask you 5 questions about my home. And for every wrong answer, you owe me $10,000. If you're a smart individual, which I'm sure you are, you don't want to play this game anymore. And the only reason you don't want to play this game is because you don't have an image to work with when it comes to my home. When I ask you to think of your home, you have a clear image. When I ask you to think of my home, there is no image to work with. So if I ask you to think of your life or your business 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, do you have the same type of clarity on the screen of your mind as if I ask you to think of an airplane? Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, then you have what's called confusion. And right behind confusion, we usually have worry, doubt, fear, anxiety, a whole lot of stuff that really doesn't serve us well. So we have to understand that we truly think in pictures. Now, this brings me to another question. I mean, we've been talking about images on the screen of the mind. And the next question I have for you is, what does your mind look like? Well, once again, if you were to ask the next 100 people you see, what does your mind look like? You're bound to get some pretty peculiar answers and some pretty peculiar looks. Now, in 1934, Dr. Thurman Fleet, who was very much into the healing arts and a chiropractor in San Antonio, Texas, he stated, mind is an activity, it's not a thing. And since nobody has ever seen the mind, he said this, I will create a graphic that we can use so we can eliminate the confusion. And he created this thing for us called the stick person. Now notice there's a mind and a body. And also notice that there's a conscious and a subconscious. Those are the only two parts of the mind we want to talk about here. Now I know psychologists and psychiatrists say there are many, many, many parts of the mind. And I respect that. But I'd like to keep things very simple. Napoleon Hill makes it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, accumulating a fortune is not complicated. Matter of fact, it's a lot simpler than most of us realize. So I'd like to keep this very simple. Let's just talk about the two parts of the mind. Now, in our conscious mind, we can choose our thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, you can choose anything you wish to think about. But what we must understand is the thoughts that we choose, or the thoughts that we entertain, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, those thoughts create a feeling. Those feelings are then expressed in actions, and ladies and gentlemen, our actions obviously produce a result. So in any area of your life, if you would like to enhance the quality of your results, spiritual, social, mental, physical, family, or financial, the 6 areas of harmony we like to call it, then we have to go back to the origination point and become very aware of our thoughts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is not hard. This truly is 3rd grade elementary. Thoughts cause feelings. Feelings are expressed in actions. Actions produce a result. If we would like a better result, then we have to have a better thought. It's really pretty simple. Now, if you've studied this book, you know the book begins with a chapter that's called the introductory chapter. And Napoleon talks about a gentleman named Edwin Barnes, and how Edwin Barnes literally thought his way into partnership with Thomas Edison. He thought his way into partnership. Now, when Barnes first got this idea, he was in no position at all to take advantage of it. He was in no position at all to even take action on it. He had no money to get to New Jersey. He didn't know anybody in the Edison labs. He didn't know Thomas Edison. However, he was determined to become the business associate of the great inventor. So what does he do? He goes by blind baggage to Orange, New Jersey. In other words, he jumped on a freight train, ladies and gentlemen. He jumped on a freight train. Instead of allowing the fact that he didn't have any money to stop him, he found a way to get it done. Now, if you've studied the book, the story goes that when he arrived in Jersey from that freight train, when he got off the train, he might have resembled a tramp. However, his thoughts were those of a king. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the important part. It was what he was thinking that was so important, not the way he looked. And as he made his way from the railroad tracks over to the Edison offices, he saw himself standing in Edison's presence. He saw himself demanding an opportunity to live out the one burning desire he has, and that's to be the business associate of the great inventor. See, this desire, I love what it says right here. It says this desire was not a hope. It wasn't a wish. This was a keen, pulsating desire, ladies and gentlemen. It was alive. You see, Barnes succeeded because he chose a definite goal. Not a half-hearted goal, a definite goal. He placed all of his energy. He put all of his willpower. He put all of his effort. He put everything behind that goal. Everything. Now, here's a very interesting part. Napoleon goes on and he tells us that 5 years passed before the chance that he was really looking for made its appearance. And during all those years, not one ray of hope, not one promise had been held out to him. To everybody except himself, he appeared to be nothing more than just another cog in the Edison wheel. However, in his own mind, every day that he was there, every day, every moment, he was the business partner of Edison. You see, he won that goal because he wanted to be a business associate of Thomas Edison, ladies and gentlemen, more than he wanted anything else. And then he did this. He created a plan. He created a plan. And that plan included jumping on a freight train. And he created a plan to attain that purpose. And then he did something, ladies and gentlemen, you and I have probably been taught never do it. I know my daddy taught me never do this. And then I read in this book how I should do it. I was a little confused at the time. He says, I burned all bridges behind him. He burned all bridges behind him. He said this, I will burn all bridges behind me and stake my entire future on my ability to get what I want. You see, ladies and gentlemen, he left himself no possible way of retreat. He had to win or perish. And that really is all there is to the barn story of success. Ladies and gentlemen, how badly do you want something? How badly do you really want to succeed at whatever you're doing? How badly do you want your income to go up so you can live the life that you really wish to live? Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, money is a very important part of life. And what we want to do is develop a very good feeling every time the thought of money comes to us. You see, that's all there was to Barnes' story of success. He wanted that success so badly that he was willing to stake his entire future on it. And most people aren't willing to do that. See, there's another story about a great warrior that faced a very similar situation. And he was getting ready to go into battle against an enemy who outnumbered him greatly. They had more arms and weaponry than they had. So what does he do? He loads his soldiers and he loads all the equipment onto ships and he travels to the enemy's country. So he's also fighting on foreign soil. And they unload all the equipment, they unload the soldiers, and then he gives the order, burn the ships. And addressing his men before the first battle, he says, you see those boats going up in smoke? Well, that means we cannot leave the shores alive unless we win. We now have no choice. We win or we perish. Ladies and gentlemen, through all this research, Napoleon found this. He says this, every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut all sources of retreat. Only by doing so can one be sure of maintaining that state of mind known as a burning desire to win, which is essential to success. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I remember when I first got into the real estate industry. I spent 3.5 years in the network marketing company that we spoke of. Things didn't go well for me. The company did well. Things didn't go well for me. I'm not blaming the company. It was me. So I took this material and I got into the real estate industry. And it's the only time in my life that I can remember looking back where I literally burned the bridge. I burned the bridge. I came off the road. I was traveling around the United States to build a network marketing business. Came back to Cincinnati, decided the travel wasn't part of what I wanted to do anymore. Got a real estate license. Well, in the interim of getting the license, a buddy of mine owns a limousine company, so I worked with him. And when it was time to go into real estate full time, I didn't realize it then, but I do now. I burned the bridge. And I burned the bridge away from the job, if you will. And if you have a job, that's perfectly okay. Be the best you can be right where you are. But I didn't want to do that anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to build wealth. I wanted to build true financial abundance. That's what I wanted to build. So I burned the bridge from that job and I jumped into the real estate industry. Ladies and gentlemen, in my first month in that industry, my very first month, not knowing what I was doing, just simply following the rules from Think and Grow Rich, following these principles, I listed 17 houses that first month. and completed 92 transactions in my first year. Now, after I had done that, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal, they told me that's approximately 15 years of productivity for the average real estate agent in the same office, in the same marketplace. And I thought, wow, what can we do now that we know that? And then what we did, ladies and gentlemen, is we literally doubled it the next year. But what Napoleon says next is really very important that we gain an understanding. He says this: every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it. However, wishing will not bring riches. I was wishing for it the whole time I was in network marketing, going broke. Once again, it's not network marketing's fault, it's my fault. He says this: but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches, and backing those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure. That will bring riches. And then he gives us a method, ladies and gentlemen. He gives us a method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent. And it's a 6-step process, ladies and gentlemen. And these 6 steps are as easy as the back of a cake box. Ladies and gentlemen, if you were going to bake a cake and the back of the box said add 1 egg, how many eggs would you add? 3? Would you just say, the heck with it, I'm not adding any eggs? I know better than that cake manufacturer. I don't need to follow those directions. Or would you follow them? Ladies and gentlemen, these 6 steps are so simple. They are so basic. They truly are elementary. However, the results they get are absolutely astounding. Step number 1, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you want. He says it's not sufficient merely to say, I want plenty of money. What does plenty mean? Fix in your mind the exact amount that you want. Step number 2, he says determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money that you desire. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as something for nothing. There's an absolute law of this universe called cause and effect. That's for another training at another time, another talk. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. What do you intend to give in return for what you want? Step 3, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money. Step 4, this is where it starts to get interesting, ladies and gentlemen. He says, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once whether you're ready or not. Ladies and gentlemen, right there is where people get lost. They get knocked right off the track. Begin at once whether you're ready or not. Ladies and gentlemen, you've spent enough time getting ready to get ready to get ready. You spent enough time moving the stack of papers from this area to this area to that area. And let me move the stack of papers over here to that shelf. Stop moving the papers. Take action. Begin at once whether you're ready or not. That's what he says, step 4. Step 5. He says, write a clear, concise statement, basically with the information from steps 1 through 4. Basically, right here, ladies and gentlemen, write yourself a story. What does it look like when it's all done? How does it feel when you have reached that level of success? How does it feel when you have accomplished this goal? And then step 6, he says this, read that story out loud at least twice a day, right before you go to bed and as soon as you wake up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my experience studying with some of the most successful mentors on the planet that if it's necessary, you should read your statement 100 times every day. Oh my gosh, Tim, 100 times a day? Yeah, if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes to create that feeling so you can actually take the necessary actions to produce the results you're looking for, if that's all it took, would you do it? Would you do it? That's how you learned math. Over and over and over. Repetitive, over and over. Repetitive, over and over. What's 5 times 5? I'll bet you knew the answer immediately, didn't you? The only way you knew the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is through the repetition of study. Over and over and over again. That's what Napoleon's telling us to do here. What if you studied this book the same way you used to study math, what would happen then? Now he goes on here, ladies and gentlemen, and he says that it's very important that you follow the instructions described in these 6 steps. He says it is especially important that you follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. The 6th paragraph, the last one. Ladies and gentlemen, only those who become money conscious ever accumulate great riches. Only those who become money conscious. Money consciousness means this. It's real simple. It means the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can see oneself already in possession of it. In other words, you can see yourself already in possession of it. Well, now let's go back to that stick person idea. Remember, we have a mind and a body, and we have a conscious and a subconscious. What are we choosing to think in regards to money? Because remember, that thought is creating a feeling. That feeling is being expressed in action. And that action is giving you the results that you have financially. So what are we choosing to think about when it comes to money? As soon as that word comes up, ladies and gentlemen, do you realize there are studies out there that say as soon as the word money comes up, over 95% of the population have a negative thought impulse that runs right through the central nervous system. It's immediate. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't allow that to happen to you. Create a positive vibration. Create a positive feeling anytime that word comes up. If the word money comes up, create a positive feeling. Now, Napoleon goes on to say something that I'll never forget reading for the first time. It was either February or March of 1996. And I remember, my self-confidence isn't very high. Self-inferiority complex is rocking on all cylinders. No direction in life. And he says this. He says, to the uninitiated, who has not been schooled in the working principles of the human mind. Oh, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you have now been schooled in the working principles of the human mind. Thoughts cause feelings, feelings, actions, actions, results. So that's no longer an excuse. He says these instructions may seem impractical. He says this also, please know that the information conveyed in these 6 steps came directly from Andrew Carnegie. Ladies and gentlemen, Carnegie came to this country, I believe as a Scottish immigrant in the mid-1800s. Very little money, very little anything going on. But yet he becomes the world's wealthiest individual in the steel industry. And he began his career as a general day laborer in the steel industry. And he says this. He says the steps call for no hard labor. He says they call for no sacrifice. He says they don't require one to become ridiculous or credulous. And then he said the one thing that gave me hope, ladies and gentlemen, that kept me involved, that kept me engaged, that kept me studying this book. He said to apply them calls for no great amount of education. And then he said this, the successful application of these 6 steps does call for sufficient imagination. Ladies and gentlemen, imagination is one of the intellectual faculties of the mind. We'll get to that in another lesson. But he goes on to say this, if you don't see great riches in your imagination, ladies and gentlemen, you'll never see them in your bank balance. If you don't see it in your imagination, you'll never see it in your bank balance. Ladies and gentlemen, that tells me that everything on this planet begins in the imagination. If you have it, somebody thought it first. What about the smartphones? What about a ladder? What about a Christmas tree or a computer? It all began in the mind first. Every bit of it. Napoleon goes on and he says this. He says, we who desire to accumulate riches should remember the real leaders of the world always have been men who harnessed and put into practical use the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity. They converted those forces into skyscrapers, cities, factories, airplanes, automobiles, and so many other things. And what about the people that had the real desires? What about Columbus? I mean, Columbus, he desired what? To discover the unknown world, right? Yeah. Henry Ford, what was his desire? The horseless carriage. You know, Henry Ford's desire was so strong and coming true. Look at the roadway. Look at the infrastructure of the roadways on the entire planet. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of that has to do with what Henry Ford did. What about Thomas Edison? He had a desire. He had a desire to illuminate the world. And through failure after failure after failure, where most everybody would have given up and quit, his wasn't an ordinary desire. It was a burning desire. And he did perfect the incandescent light bulb, and we all know that. And then, of course, we have Abraham Lincoln. He had a desire for freedom for all the people of the United States. All the people. That desire ultimately cost him his life. What about the burning desire that the Wright brothers had? What an incredible desire. And some people, when they finally got that thing off the ground, they said, yeah, but it was only up there for 14 seconds. They were like, not only did we get it off the ground, we kept it in the air for 14 seconds. You tell me which one creates a better feeling. You tell me which thought creates a better feeling. Which way do you want to give emotions to it? And then, of course, we have this gentleman named Marconi. Marconi dreamed and had this desire of us communicating through the air without the need for wires. Now, if you go back to that time in that era, just to think that, you have to be a little bit crazy. As a matter of fact, Marconi's associates, friends, whatever you might want to call them, when they discovered that he was trying to figure out how to communicate through the air without wires, they had him taken into custody and examined in a psychopathic hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, this person was doing nothing more than following their burning desire and using their imagination. That's all they were doing. That's all. See, a burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. A burning desire, ladies and gentlemen. What do you really want? You see, dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. That's not how dreams are born. I'd like to tell you about a dream of a young lady that I'm familiar with. And this young girl grew up as a pretty serious soccer player. This kid could play. Now, I'll tell you, my opinion's biased. She's my daughter. She's our youngest daughter. However, when a 13-year-old is playing with 16-year-olds and traveling around this part of the United States to play, you know she's pretty good. The results speak for themselves. Well, she continues her career in what they call club soccer and graduates and goes into, of course, high school soccer. As a freshman, ladies and gentlemen, she made the varsity squad at what's called a D1 school, which is very, very high competitive, very, very high level of competition. And even as a freshman, she makes the varsity squad. This is somewhat unheard of, especially when there are 11 seniors on that squad. So she doesn't get a ton of playing time, but she certainly proves to the coach she has a great attitude and her skills are there. So the seniors all graduate. She comes back as a sophomore. It's her time to shine. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it was in preseason, before the actual beginning of the season, she blew a knee and she obliterated the ACL. Well, one thing led to another, and we end up in Dr. Timothy Kremchek's office. That name probably doesn't mean anything to you, but the Cincinnati Reds and the Cincinnati Bengals might mean something to you. He's their surgeon. Now, he's working on our daughter. So we feel very confident we've got a really good qualified surgeon working on with her. So Rachel has a great attitude. She absolutely goes through the rehab. She comes back in now her junior year. And it's her time to shine. And it was a preseason game once again. A scrimmage game that Rachel blew the other knee, and the other knee was gone. The ACL was completely obliterated. Once again, the other knee. So Rachel doesn't have the greatest of attitudes this time, and the doctors are asking her, do you really want to play this game? And she just always answered, oh, I am playing this game. I am playing this game. So she goes through the surgery again, rehabs again, another year goes by, comes back as a senior. It's her time to shine, ladies and gentlemen. It's her time. Not only is it her senior year, but she's the only senior on the squad. She's the only one. And this time it was the second game of the season. She went down with a lateral tear of the meniscus. She was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Basically, she's going to miss the entire soccer season her senior year. However, she might be able to make it back for the senior tournament at the end of the season. Now, here's where it really gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen. After the surgery for the lateral tear of the meniscus, which is in her senior year, we get a phone call from the head soccer coach at Indiana East University. What an effective player she is. Now, I'm scratching my head at this point, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit. I understand the laws of the universe. I understand the book. I've been studying it a long time. We're still gaining more understanding every day. But why does this coach want to talk to a child that hasn't played soccer in 3.5 years and is on crutches? So anyway, he comes down into our town. He takes us to lunch. We go to lunch. He invites us up to a campus visit. We go to the campus visit. All is wonderful. And he offers her a scholarship to play soccer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is from a coach that has never seen this child play. This is from a coach that has never seen any video of her. This is from a coach that has never seen her work out. And when he met her, she's on crutches. And yet he still offered her a scholarship. How do you explain that? When the desire from within is so strong, things find their way to you. You see, dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. She never said, I hope maybe I'll play one day. She always said, oh, I am playing. A burning desire to be that soccer player, to do that game and play that game, and have the experience that college soccer brings to her. So ladies and gentlemen, she accepts this scholarship, and she comes back for that end of season tournament that I spoke of. And in the tournament, with just a few minutes into the game, she went down again. And this time, full-blown tear of the meniscus, and it rolled it under. We're talking another major knee surgery, 12 months rehab. So, of course, I called the coach, let him know what happened. He said, no big deal. I knew I was taking a risk with Rachel anyway. She still has her scholarship, and we'll make sure we do everything we can to take good care of her. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings goosebumps to me. And how do you explain that? Other than when you desire something so badly and you want it and you vibrate from here, you feel it. It finds a way of making its way to you. Ladies and gentlemen, not one time did Rachel call a college coach. Not one time did she attend an ID camp, identification camp. Not one time did she apply for a scholarship. Not one time did she move to it. She only knew what she wanted. She desired it so bad. It is a burning obsession. And as we record this right now, she's at college. You see, dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or ambition. They're not. Napoleon says this. He says, remember too, that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. Edison, tramp telegraph operator, right? Failed over and over and over and over again before he discovered the genius that was literally asleep inside of him. What about Helen Keller? She became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after birth. But she certainly made us realize that no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. What about Rachel? She didn't accept any of those defeats as her reality. She just kept rehabbing. What about Beethoven? He was deaf. Milton was blind. But their names will last as long as time endures. Why? Because they dreamed. They had a desire and they translated those dreams into organized thought. Napoleon says, before passing to the next chapter, kindle anew in your mind the fire of hope, faith, love, and tolerance. He says, if you have these states of mind and a working knowledge of the principles described, all else that you need will come to you when you are ready for it. Ladies and gentlemen, it will come to you when you're ready for it. But you must take action. It came to Rachel when she was ready, but she has to take action. You see, there's a huge difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. Napoleon makes it very clear, ladies and gentlemen, that no one is ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. See, the state of mind must be belief, ladies and gentlemen, not mere hope or wish. Hoping and wishing doesn't get anything done. Belief does. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Oh, and by the way, open-mindedness, that's essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, they don't inspire courage, and it doesn't inspire any belief. Napoleon reminds us. He says, remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity, than is required to accept misery and poverty. So our advice is to aim very high, very, very high. And Napoleon Hill wraps up this chapter and he says this. He says, through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never divulged, nature wraps up in the impulse of a strong desire, that something which recognizes no such word as impossible and accepts no such reality as failure. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Burgess. I am honored that the $1 Million Club would allow me to do this. Please remember, when you desire something so badly that you're willing to burn your bridges behind you and leave yourself absolutely no way of retreat, then you are sure to win. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow this day we're living right now, to be the very, very best day you've ever experienced in this game we call life. When you put your head on the pillow tonight, please do so with a mind full of peace. As James Allen says, calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. And may God bless each and every one of you. I look forward to sharing our next lesson with you, the chapter on faith.